on the autonomic nervous system. So just a couple of things that I wanted to make you aware of. One, test number 5 is now ready to go. It should be open today, and it will be open through Saturday at 11:59. So please leave yourself time to be able to get that accomplished. The second thing is the lab practical is also posted now, and it's open, and it'll be open through Tuesday, the 28th. So get the lecture test taken care of, and then go ahead and work on the that one thing on the lab practical. So next week, we won't have any lab on Tuesday, but I'm going to take that opportunity for anybody that wants to show up. I'm just going to do more lectures so that we can get things done. We'll go ahead and make sure that the test number 6 will take on Monday the 4th, and then the final will take on Thursday the 7th. And then the semester's over with. So that's just craziness. So anyway, let me just go and make sure I'm still recording. Show you Mike the chicken. So here's what happens when you only have a hypothalamus. Well, he obviously must have had a cerebellum because he's still walking around. So he's still got that motor, reflexive motor output thing going on. Okay, so here's the story of poor Mike the chicken. Is that, whoops, I didn't want to do that. So he, the man was gonna kill his rooster for food, and when he chopped the head off, and here's the head down there on the bottom. Amazingly, there's enough brainstem material up here that, oh, let me get rid of myself, that he still was fine. And so he lived for 18 months after his head was chopped off, and he fed him through an eyedropper. And here's another picture of the man with the remaining head. I guess he dried it all out. So here's, he would shove food down into the gullet. And so yeah, here's Lloyd and his chicken. Oh, that poor thing. So anyway, there's his head right there. Okay, so anyway, you can look up Mike the headless chicken, and that'll be nice for you guys. Okay, so what we're going to do now is take a look at some some of my lecture notes, my PowerPoint. Oh, let me pull that up first. And then we're going to watch Hank for a few minutes because it has a good introduction on how things are in the autonomic nervous system. Share my screen first. Okay. So what we want to do here then is look at the autonomic nervous system as a whole. So we've done CNS, central nervous system, we've done peripheral nervous system, and autonomic is just the motor branch of the peripheral nervous system. So there's one more additional level of control in the peripheral nervous system besides just the skeletal muscle motor output, but then we also have smooth muscle and cardiac muscle and gland output. And so then its relationship to the peripheral nervous system. Then we're going to compare, somatic is your body, so that's your skeletal muscle, to the autonomic nervous system's effectors, pathways, and efferent pathways, and neurotransmitters, and everything else. And then get into functions of sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. We probably will start that today. All right, so what is the autonomic nervous system, or what is the ANS? So it's the part of the motor division of the PNS. So we have somatic nervous system, we have autonomic nervous system. So it consists, excuse me, consists of the motor neurons that innervate smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and glands. So remember that, and we'll look at, I don't have an organizational chart, but we'll go back and look at one in a minute. Now, here's the deal that's different with the autonomic nervous system compared to the somatic nervous system, or our skeletal muscle. When a skeletal muscle, actually, let me go ahead and draw, and in my lovely drawings that I do so well. All right, so here's how it works. So we're going to have our spinal cord, and oh, I didn't get those. Kind of funky offset. There's our these sulci and grooves are supposed to be, fissures are supposed to be in line in the middle. They're not. Okay, so let's make a dorsal root and then ventral root. Oh, and then those guys are going to meet. I should put that up there into a spinal. Oh, that's a big ganglion. All right. Oh, that's a horrible looking spinal cord, but that's what it is. All right, so let's go to our colors that we use. So sensory input is blue. Okay, so here is all of our sensory input, and it's going to come in here. It's going to synapse, and then we have some, so this would be somatic, this would be from your body, this would be your autonomic input, so this would be collecting information from all of your body, and it's going to come in here too. All right, so now when motor output, oh, got to make interneurons. So we'll make some interneurons, some interneurons. I'm going to go out this way. All right, and so now we need our motor neurons. All right, so in the first, actually I'm going to use two different reds. So I'm going to use this one. This one is just regular somatic. So we're going to send that out through this ventral root. And then that's going to go all the way to a muscle. It's not going to synapse anywhere else, but it's going to go all the way to the muscle. So this is a somatic or skeletal muscle. I should just type that, but whatever. Motor neuron. Okay, then we have the autonomics, and the autonomic is going to come out here. Oh, it's kind of red, and then it's going to go out through here too, but it's going to come out here and it's going to synapse with another. If this is the sympathetic nervous system, it's going to synapse with another right here. So I am going to get a ganglion that's going to be right close to my spinal cord. So here is postsynaptic or yeah. So we could say this is my motor neuron 1 and this is my motor neuron 2. And then finally, I'll go like to my heart. Should be aorta. Okay, that's a heart. That's not any better. There we go. Okay, so see, it's going to take 2 neurons to get to my heart and my smooth muscle and my glands, but it's only going to take 1 motor neuron to go out. So this is ANS, to go out to the skeletal muscle in my body. Okay, so that's what this means right here, where it says the motor units of ANS consist of 2 neuron chains and the muscles they innervate. And we're going to look at that a whole lot more in just a little bit. Okay, and then it says the hypothalamus is in control, divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic divisions. Okay, so we saw that yesterday when we were, or whenever time, well, when we were reviewing, that's when we looked at it. So the hypothalamus is the ANS control center. Okay, what I want to do right now is go ahead and show you the video. And actually, let me do this again. Hang on. Let me get rid of this, just so that I know we're looking at the right thing. Put this down here. Okay. Okay, so here we go.
No matter what you're a fan of, you can probably think of 2 characters who fit the description. Holmes and Watson, Brennan and Booth, Kirk and Spock, Ron and Hermione. They're close, they understand each other in ways that others don't, and you really can't picture one without the other. But when stuff happens, they usually react in different ways. Like if you're snooping around Hogwarts at night and you come across some beastie, the smart money's on Hermione to come up with a spell that saves the day, while Ron probably standing there with his mouth open. And when Sherlock starts to go crazy because there hasn't been a fiendishly clever jewel heist or whatever for him to figure out, you can count on Watson to calm him down. mostly. My brother John, who is a writer of books, will tell you that these characters are foils. They're not opposites exactly, they're contrasts. And the more you see them together, the more they seem to complement or round one another out. And that is basically your autonomic nervous system in a nutshell. Your autonomic system is the branch of your peripheral nervous system that regulates the functions of your internal organs.
Okay, so here you can see, if we take a look at this again, here's my sensory input into the peripheral. So these are my sensory nerves that are going to my CNS, blue, going to my CNS. And then here is my motor output. That's going to go again to my motor nerves, down to the motor division. And then we can divide it into two parts. We have the somatic that's going to go to the skeletal muscle, and that's all voluntary. And then the autonomic, which is not voluntary at all, that's going to go to your to your cardiac and smooth muscle and the glands of your body. And then we can further subdivide the autonomic into a sympathetic division and a parasympathetic division. Okay.
Like your heart and stomach, and also controls your smooth and cardiac muscles and your glands. All things that you do not consciously control. So yes, you could say it has a lot of power over you. But the funny, or maybe confusing thing about this system is that its effects on your organs and muscles and glands are by no means consistent. Not at all. At any given moment, whether you happen to be totally relaxed or completely flipping your wig, your autonomic system is constantly making involuntary, fine-tuned adjustments to your body based on what signals your central nervous system is picking up. This could mean changing your body temperature, sending extra blood to a particular area, slowing your heartbeat, or tweaking your stomach secretions. Its effects change depending on the situation you're in, and also which part of your autonomic system is in charge at that moment. Because this weird little corner of your nervous system that keeps you alive is actually run by two competing interests. Two divisions that serve the same organs, but they create opposite effects in them, battling it out back and forth to either excite your body's functions or subdue them. One of them is dedicated to amping you up and preparing you for activity. That's your sympathetic nervous system. And the other one talks you down and effectively undoes what its foil did. And that is the parasympathetic nervous system. Together, they are what make your body experience stress, fear, relaxation, and defiance, courage and cowardice, panic and peace. If there's an epic novel going on in your body right now, it is probably being written by these two. Let's talk about names for a minute. One of the two divisions of your autonomic nervous system is called the sympathetic system. It sounds kind of nice, doesn't it? It's like understanding and calming and telling you it's not so bad after all. Wrong! Contrary to its comforting name, the sympathetic system is what sounds your internal alarm bells. It's the hardware behind the famous fight or flight response. It is synonymous with stress. If the sympathetic is for fight or
Okay, hang on. Whoops.
Nice, doesn't it? It's like understanding.
I went back too far.
Not so bad after all. Wrong! Contrary to its comforting name, the sympathetic system is what sounds your internal alarm bells. It's the hardware behind the famous fight or flight response.
Okay, so I want to take a look at this really quick while we're here. Oh, I can't show you both screens at the same time. Okay, so notice how down at the bottom, you've probably heard about it being called the fight or flight response. But we want to also see that it controls everything with ease. So exercise, excitement, emergency, and embarrassment. All right, so let's go ahead and write that down. So add this to your notes, because it's not in your notes right now. What am I doing? To share, there we go. I'm clicking on it. Okay, so we're gonna get rid of this lovely drawing. And then we're gonna go into text, and we're gonna go sympathetic nervous system. Okay, and so then we're gonna go down here and we're gonna say this is the fight or flight response. So you're either going to stand and fight, or you're gonna get the heck out of there. You are gonna run away. So it is, it is the E, which stands for exercise. So when we are exercising, then we are in sympathetic stimulation. When we are excited for whatever reason, excitement, okay? Any emergency situation, so when our leg gets cut off or something bad like that, and embarrassment. Okay, so when we'll come back and then we'll add to this with the parasympathetic. Okay, so all right, so let's move on.
It is synonymous with stress. If the sympathetic is for fight or flight, the parasympathetic is for resting and digesting. It's responsible for maintaining your body and conserving energy for later. I recognize that this is confusing.
Oops.
But when you...
Okay, so let's pull that back. Okay, whoop, almost. All right, so this is the D division. Okay, so sympathetic was the E, parasympathetic is the D, and if we put, I gotta go back over here, and in the new color. So then we're gonna go. Okay, so this is parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system. And oops, okay, so then this is going, now there's two different terms that I've heard, so I'm gonna, your nicknames, I'm gonna give you both. One is feed or breed, which is the one that I prefer, or people also call it the rest and digest. And the reason why I don't like rest and digest, because that only takes in part of it. Well, I guess so does feed or breed, but it doesn't give you any idea that has to do with reproduction. So I like to do the feed or breed one better, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so this is, oh, excuse me, this is the D. So what are the D's? Digestion, so it's going to stimulate your digestive process. It's going to stimulate defecation, and it's going to stimulate diuresis, which is getting rid of your urine, and so we can put urination. But it doesn't start with a D, so we had to put diuresis instead. All right. Okay, let's move on.
Maintaining your body and conserving energy for later. I recognize that this is confusing, but when you explore the anatomy of these two systems like we're going to do today, they start to make a little more sense. Because even though their basic components are essentially the same, their physical structures turn out to be different in a few really important ways. And those differences can help explain why they act like the foils that they are, and why sometimes you feel more like Sherlock than Watson, or the other way around. First big difference, the nerves of these two divisions originate at different sites in your body. Your sympathetic fibers are thoracolumbar, meaning that they originate from between your thoracic vertebra, where your ribs attach, and the lumbar vertebra, just inferior to your ribs. Early anatomists saw how a network of nerves radiating from the middle of the spine like this could quickly coordinate the functions of many major organs at once, so it was called the sympathetic system, from the Greek words for feeling together. The nerve fibers of your parasympathetic system begin both above and below where the sympathetic ones do. They're craniosacral, meaning they sprout from the base of your brain, and also from your sacral spinal cord, just superior to the tailbone. And because the roots of these nerve fibers basically frame the starting points of the sympathetic nerves, they were called parasympathetic, literally beside the sympathetic. Another difference between these two foils, they're ganglia. Unlike your sensory or motor neurons, where a single axon can reach all the way from your spinal cord to whatever muscle or touch receptor it works with, both parts of your autonomic system require two neurons in order to work. And those two neurons meet in ganglia, clusters of neuron cell bodies that house millions of synapses. But where these ganglia appear relate to their function and which division of the autonomic system they're serving. Sympathetic ganglia are found closer to the spinal cord because in those fight or flight moments of high excitement or activity, they need to be able to send a single message far and wide like the bat signal. This way, excitatory signals traveling into a ganglion near the spine, ganglion being the singular of ganglia, can trigger action potentials in a whole bunch of other neurons that lead to many different effectors like the heart and lungs and stomach and adrenal glands. By contrast, most parasympathetic ganglia are found way out from the spine, near or even inside of their effector organs. Because this system is responsible for taking care of particular functions only when you have the time and energy to do it, like digesting food or excreting waste, it uses more specific strategic signals. It's more like Commissioner Gordon calling Batman on the bat phone one-on-one just to talk about how things are going and You know, whether Alfred's doing okay after his meningitis. It's private conversation. Not everybody needs to be involved. Anyway, because the ganglia of these two divisions appear in different places in your body, it also makes sense that their neurons themselves have slightly different forms, namely the length of their axons. Now, ganglia can be kind of complex. It actually comes from the Greek word for a knot in a string. So when dealing with neurons around these structures, we look at the fibers before they run into the ganglion as well as after they come out of it. Understandably enough, the axon lengths of the neurons before the ganglion are called the preganglionic fibers, and the ones coming out are postganglionic. The key here is that in the sympathetic system, the preganglionic fibers are much shorter than the postganglionic ones, which makes sense when you think about it because the sympathetic ganglia are really close to the spinal cord and the axons don't have or need very far to go from the central nervous system. But they do have a lot of distance to cover on the other side of the ganglion in order to reach their effectors. So naturally, the fibers leading out of the ganglia are a lot longer. And foils being what they are, the reverse is of course true for the parasympathetic system. Since parasympathetic ganglia are so close to or even inside of their effector organs, the preganglionic fibers are a lot longer. They extend from the cranium and sacrum, where they start, out to the lungs or liver or bladder, wherever their effector is, where they reach their ganglion. From there, the postganglionic fibers are super short, just long enough to communicate with their effector. So what?
Okay, so let's watch me draw again. So lovely. Okay, so let's just go ahead and leave that. I think I can draw in between and make it not be so bad. So I'm going to draw a smaller spinal cord here. Here. All right, and we'll put some gray matter in here. All right, so on the red side, so over here, well, let me finish my, okay, and same thing with this, put it in the ganglion. All right, okay, so now I can make this work. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. I'll go ahead and make it that same color. So here's what's going to happen with the sympathetic. So I'm going to start with a motor neuron right here in the ventral horn of the gray matter, which is then going to go out to the ventral root. And then it's going to go out, like I said, and synapse in a ganglion. And so because these are, so I'm going to have another nerve that comes down here and here and here. So all the ganglia are going to line up in this same place, very close to the bodies of the vertebrae. Okay, and so I'll deal with that again in a minute. So here is this. So then this is my preganglionic neuron. Preganglionic, I'm not going to write that out. This is my postganglionic neuron. And so now it's going to go to my heart. This will look more like a heart. There we go. And we'll put in a little aorta. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, that looks like a snowman. No, it's Olaf. All right, so then it, let me just get rid of that. Holy cow, I just need to get rid of him. Okay, that looks more like a heart. All right, now, this is my postganglionic neuron. And it's going to be long, boom, boom, and it's going to go out and it's going to act on the heart. Then if we come back to the parasympathetic nervous system, its neuron is going to, motor neuron is going to start right here in the ventral horn, and it can be over here on this side too. It's not just, you know, one's on the left, one's on the right. They're on both sides, but I'm just separating. So we're going to take this out, and then we're going to take it way out to my heart. This will be a better, nope, it's not a better heart. Okay, well, it's a heart, and then it's going to synapse there, and then I'm going to have another neuron, super short one, that's then going to synapse in two places in the heart. And so this is my super long preganglionic neuron, and this is my super short post of the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so the one thing that you need to know is that in the sympathetic nervous system, preganglionic neurons are short. So this one is short. This is long. Postganglionic neurons are long. Whereas in the parasympathetic, preganglionic neurons are long and postganglionic neurons are short. Okay, so that's what he was describing there. And then we'll talk about neurotransmitters as he goes on and talks about his neurotransmitters, his video.
Once again, it's anatomy and physiology. The structure of each of these systems is related to its function. The sympathetic nervous system is set up in such a way that even a small stress signal sent down one path could trigger a response in many effectors at once, which is one reason why your reaction to a sudden stressful event can feel so all-encompassing. By the same token, the resting and digesting that's overseen by the parasympathetic system doesn't require urgent, all-hands-on-deck communication. If you need to process a burrito or take a nap or maybe a trip to the bathroom, it can communicate with the organs involved one-on-one. But still, none of this tells us how these systems do what they do, how these nerves communicate with your organs and muscles and glands in times of either stress or relaxation. We'll start that next week with a white-knuckle ride through your sympathetic nervous system, so between now and then, rest up. For now, you learn the basic two-part system of your autonomic...
Okay, well, we're not going to do those other ones till Friday. At least watch the other ones till Friday. So let's go ahead and go back to my whiteboard, and we'll talk about the neurotransmitters then. So we need a neurotransmitter right here, and we need a neurotransmitter right here, and then we need a neurotransmitter right here, and then we need a neurotransmitter right there. So when you're in flight or fight, there are people who seem to be addicted to stressful situations. I have some students that absolutely love, former students, that absolutely love the excitement of emergency medicine. I don't even get that. I am probably as least interested in emergency medicine as any specialty you could be interested in, because I just don't like that feeling. And what is that feeling? It's the adrenaline rush. Yeah. So I always think of my ER kids as adrenaline junkies. They love that feeling. I have a student right now in my 202 class. She can't wait until she can be an ER nurse, because, oh my gosh, that's her thing, is just emergency kinds of things right away. Deal with the stress, deal with the problem, and then have it all better. Well, sort of all better. I absolutely hate that feeling. So what is this adrenaline then? So adrenaline is a hormone, and actually we're going to call it epinephrine for in here. And so this is going to come, and here's why we call it adrenal gland, from the adrenal medulla. So it comes from a gland called the adrenal gland, and the middle part of the adrenal gland, the adrenal medulla, secretes epinephrine. And we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. But there, it has a neurotransmitter partner called put in norepinephrine. All right, now hormones and hormones and neurotransmitters chemically can be the same molecule, like in norepinephrine. If it's secreted at a synapse by a neuron, then it's a neurotransmitter. But if it's secreted from a gland and goes into your bloodstream, then it's a hormone. So norepinephrine in this case is actually going to be both in the sympathetic nervous system. It's going to be both a hormone and a neurotransmitter. But so let's see, where does this fit in then? So we're going to come back to the the preganglionic neurons in both cases, in both the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So the neurotransmitter at this spot, at this synapse right here, is acetylcholine, our friend from muscle contraction. Yep, acetylcholine. Come over here, that neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. Now, in our parasympathetic, because I don't need epinephrine and norepinephrine excitement and everything, right here acting on my heart is also going to be acetylcholine. But then over here, that is going to be norepinephrine. All right. So where does the adrenaline come in? Where does the epinephrine come in? I'm going to show you that in a minute. Okay, so we're going to go back and summarize all this information in our lecture. I mean, in the PowerPoint. So let me get out of that. Okay. All right. So we've done all that. So now I'm going to take a we're going to take a look at this chart. So this chart represents our single motor neuron motor unit. So one motor neuron, muscles it innervates. But here in the autonomic nerve, in the autonomic nervous system, you can see we have 2 neurons in the motor unit. Okay, so as they come from the central nervous system. So let's do this one first. Okay, so in our central nervous system, in the gray matter of our spinal cord, we're going to have a short preganglionic neuron. It's going to secrete acetylcholine. I'm going to have a postganglionic neuron that's going to be long, and then it's going to go out to one of my organs, some smooth muscle glands, cardiac muscle, okay, depending on where it needs to go. And it's going to secrete the neurotransmitter norepinephrine. We're going to come back to this. Well, okay, let's do it right now. All right, so here's where the epinephrine and the extra norepinephrine come into play. So, oh, that was my other class. So when your nervous system, I told the other class something about this, but it wasn't you guys, so now I have to tell you. Let's see, I don't want to do that. Let me draw a picture because I really want you to understand what's going on right here. So, go to another picture. All right, I'll go with my whiteboard and I'm going to draw a neural tube. Okay, so here is your neural tube from like 8 weeks of conception. Well, 16 weeks, we know that it was definitely happening. Okay, so I've got my neural tube forming right here. Then next to it, I'm going to get some clusters of cells called neural crest cells. And so what these cells are going to do is they're going to leave their position next to the spinal cord, and they're going to go all innervate different parts of your body and everything. But one of these is going to bring neurons. So there's neurons that are going to connect it, and then they're going to go way out here to the adrenal medulla, which is this part right here. So this is the all right, so embryonically, it became plugged in to your nervous system, okay? And so I'm going to have neurons that go right here, connect to my spinal cord, and then they're going to come out here and go to my adrenal medulla, and then that's where the epinephrine, epi, and norepinephrine come from. Oops. All right, so these guys are hormones now. So what we want to do is make the process of sympathetic stimulation be even stronger than just sending signals with neurons to the various parts of the body, like in this picture right here. So we don't just want to send neuron signals to here. We want to put some Sorry, I'm eating sunflower seeds. I'm going to put some hormones in the bloodstream that make the effect even stronger. And so now epinephrine and norepinephrine are going all through your bloodstream and affecting these organs as well. And so that's how that came into being. And then the parasympathetic, something else in here that we didn't talk about. So here we're starting again in the gray matter of the spinal cord. Then we're going to have a long neuron, long preganglionic neuron that's going to go out to the ganglion, which are right at the organs they serve, which makes a very short postganglionic neuron. And again, the neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. So in the ganglia, it's always acetylcholine, and in the parasympathetic effectors, it's acetylcholine, but in the sympathetic effectors, they're receiving norepinephrine. Now, the one last thing, what do we remember about PNS axons? They're surrounded by Schwann cells. So they're myelinated. So here, we have lots of myelination along the axons in the somatic nervous system, in those motor neurons that are going to our muscles, skeletal muscles. The preganglionic neurons in each one of these cases are myelinated, but look at right here. Post, nope, not myelinated. Okay, where does it have myelination? There's the little Schwann cells. These guys have no Schwann cells. These guys don't have any Schwann cells either. So I don't know why the postganglionic neurons are unmyelinated, but they are. Okay, so preganglionic neurons myelinated, postganglionic myelinated neurons are unmyelinated. All right, so let's put all of this general information together now. All right, so preganglionic neurons found in the brain or spinal cord. So remember, they're found in the brain if they're going to be parasympathetic, because remember, parasympathetic is craniosacral region. So these will be the neurons that come out of your brain. So your cranial region neurons, but out of your thoracic and lumbar region, then they'll come out your and your sacral region. They'll come out of the spinal cord. Okay. So preganglionic axon is lightly myelinated. Synapses with the postganglionic, and then the postganglionic neuron begins in ganglia outside of the CNS. Okay, and we haven't specified which division yet. We just know that those cell bodies are outside of the CNS. Preganglionic neurons are unmyelinated neurons, begin in the ganglia outside the CNS and go to the effector. Conduction obviously is slower due to lack of myelination. I don't really know why they're not myelinated. Okay, neurotransmitters. So norepinephrine released only by the postganglionic neurons of the sympathetic division. Acetylcholine, on the other hand, released by postganglionic neurons of the parasympathetic and all preganglionic neurons, whether they're sympathetic or parasympathetic, it doesn't matter. Let's see. Did we skip something? Nope. Okay, so I'm going to do this next stuff on Friday. So we're going to skip that, and we're going to go over to the descriptions of the parasympathetic, and we'll come back to dual innervation. All right, so what is the parasympathetic? Usually in control of our visceral organs, so our heart and our digestive system, okay, works during non-stressful situations. Nicknamed feed or breed response. Body energy use is low, so we're not exerting a lot of energy getting the control of these different parts of our body. Effects are of short duration and localized because they only use neurons. And so the neuron is just going to send a nerve impulse to the organ, tell it to do something, and then it's not going to send the signal anymore, okay? Nerves originate from the craniosacral region of the spinal cord. Ganglia are close to the organs, making preganglionic neurons long, postganglionic neurons short. Again, just like we've said. So here shows the cranial nerves. There are 4 cranial nerves that are involved in parasympathetic. And so on Friday, when we talk about what does each nerve do, then that's when we'll get into the specifically. But cranial nerve 3, 7, 9, and 10 are the ones that are going to be involved in parasympathetic. And then the sacral nerves down here, so S2, S4, these, and the pelvic splanchnic nerves down here, that will then go to the lower part of the digestive system, the lower part of the colon for defecation, and then it's going to be going to the urinary system for diuresis, and then it's going to go to the genitalia for reproduction. So I don't know how to put reproduction as a D. I don't know. Anyway, but it is. All right, so now sympathetic. So sympathetic works during stressful situations. Nicknamed the flight or fight response, body energy use is high. We're using a lot of ATP during sympathetic stimulation. The effects are of long duration and widespread. So we don't just go to an organ. You know that when you slam on your brakes, when the bunny's running across the street so you don't hit it, that you slam on the brakes. So you've got that muscle contraction going on, that reflexive stuff, but then think about what else is happening in your body. Your heart is racing, your breathing is really fast, and so all of that is just all throughout your body, and it lasts a long time, and that's because of the additional effects of epinephrine as a hormone going out into your bloodstream from the adrenal medulla. So it takes a while for that epinephrine to come out, for your liver and kidneys to take out that epinephrine so that you don't have that effect anymore. And that's the beauty of sympathetic stimulation, is we just flood you really fast with a whole bunch of epinephrine, and so that's why the guy could push the rock off himself, okay, and other things is because that we can do when we're in sympathetic stimulation. The nerves originate from the thoracolumbar region of the spinal cord, and then remember ganglia are in a chain close to the spinal cord. We call them white chain or sympathetic chain ganglia, making preganglionic neurons short and postganglionic neurons long. So if we take a look at this picture, so here we're coming out of the thoracolumbar region, and so these are all preganglionic neurons. Here are the ganglia, so our sympathetic chain are paravertebral, and so they're going to be run right here, so alongside the vertebrae, and I'll show you another picture of that in a minute, because it's not really this far. I'll show you actual, well, it's still a drawing, but it's a lot better representation of how long those, or how short those fibers are. And then once they synapse, oh, now we're going to go out to all of these places. And sometimes it's going to be a far distance to go from your thoracic region, maybe to your eye or to your heart or your lung, your liver, stomach, spleen, large and small intestine, genitalia. Okay. So then the lumbar ones will go out here. So all of those are going to be sympathetic. So thoracolumbar. So if we look at where those synapses are, here are ganglia. So here is that chain of sympathetic ganglia. And friends, it really does run right here by the bodies of the vertebrae. So remember, the bodies of the vertebrae are anterior. And so when you cut open a cadaver and we look inside, they just run right next to the bodies of the vertebrae. So here's what's happening. Let's see. So we want to follow this. All right. So here is that original, the presynaptic neuron, or the preganglionic neuron. So it's going through here, and then here it's going to synapse with its effector, and then it's going to go out to, I don't know, rector pili muscles, sweat glands, make you sweat, make your hair stand on end, I don't know, whatever you need it to do. But here you can see, even though they're long, this looks pretty long, right? Because it's going like that, but it's just right next to your vertebrae. So all it's doing is coming out and looping around and going up, and then it goes out. So that makes this preganglionic one short, but this has to go all the way out to your skin or wherever it's going to go. All right. If you take a look at this table, this just compares parasympathetic and sympathetic if you want to look at that, but that's already there in our notes. And then what the different segments for sympathetic go to. You can look at that too, but I don't really care. All right, so that then is where we're going to leave it. So we're going to come back on Friday and we're going to talk about this dual innervation and this right here, and then we'll go into looking specifically about what does each system do in your body. Okay, so that's where we'll pick up on Friday. And if you guys don't have any questions, got done a little early today, but that's fine. So we'll watch we'll watch parasympathetic and sympathetic, crash course videos on Friday. Make this big. Oh, I need to stop sharing. There we go. All right. So that's what we'll take a look at on Friday. So good luck with your exam this weekend and then your lab practical on Tuesday. And so there it is. And I guess nobody has any questions. So we will see you on Friday. Have a great couple days.